I'm 74 years old, and my children stopped calling me 10 years ago. Not because of a fight, not because of something I said one night that couldn't be taken back. It happened quietly. One call I missed, one message I meant to return later, then longer gaps. At the time, I told myself this was normal. People get busy, lives move on. I kept waiting for things to go back to how they were. They never did. Only recently did I understand why. It wasn't one mistake that pushed them away. It was years of small choices that felt reasonable while I was making them. This isn't a story about bad children or broken families. It's about how distance grows slowly while life feels justified. I noticed the silence slowly, the way you notice dust on a shelf you pass every day. At first, it did not worry me. Weeks passed without a call, then months, and I told myself this was how adult lives worked. I said they were busy building careers, raising children, managing problems I no longer carried. I checked my phone and felt a small lift each time it buzzed, then a quiet drop when it was not their name. I told myself tomorrow was better. Tomorrow always felt safer than today. Habit kept me still. I woke, ate, worked, rested, and waited, trusting routine to protect what mattered. I believed reaching out too much might bother them. I did not want to seem needy, so I stayed polite and distant, calling that respect. Hope did the rest. Hope whispered that love did not fade just because time passed. Hope said silence was temporary and understanding was permanent. I replayed old conversations and used them as proof that things were fine. When holidays came, I waited again, certain they would call then. When birthdays passed, I blamed timing. Each excuse felt reasonable alone. Together they built a wall. I thought patience was kindness. I thought giving space showed trust. What I did not see was how waiting became my answer. The longer I waited, the harder it felt to break the pattern. Reaching out started to feel awkward, like knocking on a door I once owned. I let weeks turn into seasons and seasons into years, all while telling myself I was doing the right thing. Silence did not scare me enough to move. It simply settled in and stayed. By then, waiting felt normal, and calling felt risky, like changing a rule I had followed too long without ever questioning. I can see now how distance was made in minutes, not years. It was the way I ended calls once the point was covered, saying I would talk more next time. It was answering questions while sorting papers or watching the clock. I told myself I was listening, but my mind was already moving ahead. When they shared stories, I nodded instead of asking more. When they needed time, I offered advice instead. Chores felt urgent, rest felt earned only after tasks were done. I chose order over presence without thinking. Each choice felt small. Each one felt harmless. I believed love lived in the big things, not the everyday moments. I missed chances to stay on the line when silence asked me to. I rushed goodbyes because dinner was ready or a show was starting. I checked messages later instead of now. Later became a habit. Over time, calls grew shorter because I made them that way. I trained them to expect less without ever meaning to. I see how attention fades when it is divided. I see how warmth cools when it is postponed. I remember saying I would visit soon and letting months pass. I remember being tired and choosing quiet instead of effort. None of this felt cruel. It felt practical. I was not angry. I was busy. That made it easy to excuse myself. But small moments are not small to children. Even when they are grown, they notice when you are half there. They feel when their words land on distracted ground. Trust weakens when it is not fed. By the time I noticed the change, habits were set. Distance had shape. It had weight. It had learned my routines and fit inside them, patient and unnoticed, growing each time I chose something else. I lived by a belief I never tested. I believed love stayed solid without daily care. I thought showing up in emergencies mattered more than staying present in calm times. I measured myself by being steady, paying bills on time, keeping promises that were easy to count. If I was dependable, I assumed the rest would hold. This belief guided my choices quietly. It told me that checking in could wait and that listening deeply was optional. It said results mattered more than moments. When I felt pulled between tasks and people, the belief chose for me. I told myself they knew I cared. I told myself words were enough. I believed reliability spoke louder than attention. So I planned my days around duty and fit family into the gaps. I returned calls when it was convenient. I saved long talks for later weeks. I trusted that shared history would carry us through thin seasons. The belief rewarded me with calm. It kept conflict low and my schedule clean. It also trained me to miss signals. When voices softened, I called it maturity. When requests stopped, I called it independence. I did not ask why warmth cooled. I assumed closeness was permanent once earned. Over time, my belief shaped habits, and habits shaped distance. I became someone who waited instead of leaning in. I became certain that good intentions could replace effort. Only now do I see the flaw. Love needs motion to stay alive. It needs proof in small acts. Reliability without attention feels cold. Care without time feels thin. My belief was not cruel, but it was wrong. It built a quiet gap and told me it was normal. By the time I questioned it, the gap had learned my name and remained until silence felt like truth. Age has slowed me enough to see patterns I missed before. I wake earlier and move gentler, and the quiet gives me room to think. I see now that closeness does not break from anger alone. It thins when care is skipped, when time is treated as extra, when listening is delayed. No one needs to be cruel for bonds to weaken. They weaken when days pass without touch points. What keeps people close is simple and steady. It is showing up when nothing is wrong. It is asking one more question and staying for the answer. It is choosing a person over a task, even when the task feels important. I understand now that warmth grows from repetition. A short call made often beats a long call made rarely. A visit planned and kept matters more than promises saved for later. Trust stays alive when attention is regular. I also see how repair works. It does not begin with speeches or gifts. It begins with presence that lasts beyond the moment. When care is consistent, people relax. They feel safe to share small things. Small things become bridges. Time taught me that love is not stored like savings. It is spent and renewed. When spending stops, balance drops without warning. I used to think closeness would wait for me. It does not. It responds to effort in the present. I am calmer now because the truth is clear. Keep people close by meeting them where they are, when they are there. Do it again tomorrow. That is what time finally made plain. I carry this lesson daily, moving slower, calling sooner, and staying present longer, because care kept alive is easier than repair attempted late, and the cost of neglect always arrives quietly for those we love most today. Listen to me if you still have time to change this path. Silence does not stay small. It grows when it is ignored. If calls are shorter, if replies slow, if weeks pass without contact, notice it now. Do not wait for the perfect day. There is no perfect day. There is only today. Reach out even if it feels awkward. Awkward fades, distance hardens. Say you were thinking of them. Ask how their day went and stay with the answer. Put the phone down and give your full attention. Choose the call over the task. Choose the visit over the excuse. I am not telling you to fix everything at once. I am asking you to act before habits lock in place. I waited because I believed time would soften things. Time did the opposite. It made silence feel normal. Once that happens, reaching out feels heavier than it should. Do not let that weight form. If you have missed moments, start now. If you have been busy, slow down now. Pride will tell you to wait. Fear will tell you to avoid discomfort. Ignore both. Love moves first. It does not keep score. It shows up again and again. If you hear their voice today, answer it fully. If you have not heard it in a while, be the one who calls. Do not send a quick message and hope it counts. Stay present, stay longer. What you do now becomes the future you live with. I cannot change my past, but you can shape yours. Choose presence while it is still welcomed. Choose effort while doors are open. Do not assume tomorrow will make this easier. It rarely does. Act now with patience and courage, and let steady care speak louder than silence ever can today now.